I'll always remember Rich as a kind-hearted yet passionate person. The first time that we really got to work together was on the board of advisors for the Houston program in 2008, when we were just getting started with developing our individual institutions administrative residency programs. And one of the first things that I remember from our meetings together was that Rich was just so passionate about ensuring that our residents got the absolute best experience we could provide them, both through our residency programs and then through the graduate school program as well. And I just remember him immediately influencing others to follow. And I think that created a great sense of synergy and positive direction for the group from the very beginning. Divya and I were relatively new to the group at the time, and I just remember his constant encouragement and being a motivational presence. There was never an idea that was too big. He always felt that we had the ability to achieve it as long as we were willing to fight for it and advocate for it. And really, we bonded immediately after that. From that point on, we continued to have a positive relationship. I looked to him for mentorship and guidance and encouragement. And while I am so sad that I won't be able to benefit from those things anymore, I can certainly say that I will always carry a piece of his passion for pharmacy education, his passion for advancing the pharmacist role, and I consider myself very fortunate and blessed to have benefited from his presence.
Thank you, Alex, Tani, and everyone that has helped with the scholarship for Dr. Cadle to help the residents to enrich their professional experience, and for this tribute for the graduation. I can't believe how hard it is to make this video, but Dr. Cadle has been a dear mentor to me and a dear friend, and I'm not trying to cry, throughout my pharmacy career. He has seen something in me that I didn't see in myself, and he has helped me to continue my involvement with the pharmacy profession, and I would do my best in everything I do, especially being involved in giving back, because that has always been his advice for us. And sorry. And the most important thing I've learned about Dr. Cadle is that you have to balance your work and your life. And family is always going to be your number one priorities. Without doing a residency under him, I don't think I've learned this lesson. I'm still learning and still struggling to balance and reprioritize life. But because of his influence on me as his mentee, colleague, and friend, I cannot express all my gratitude and appreciation towards Dr. Cadle. He will always be remembered, and his legacy will live on among each of us. And I am and will continue to be one of his legacy. Thank you, Dr. Cadle.
When I think of Dr. Cadle, the image of an ideal residency program director pops in my head. One who inspires his residents to achieve by walking the walk himself. One who works passionately and persistently to advance the profession of pharmacy. And one who spends quality, one-on-one time with each individual, nurturing relationships beyond preceptor to resident. I had the privilege to be his resident and professional colleague for 4 years. The imprint he's left in my life is immeasurable. One lesson I've taken away from observing him in action was that he lived and breathed the principle that if a task can be done today, right now, at this very instant, why wait a single breath longer? He didn't make anyone wait on him. He always executed everything in his power to fulfill any request or task immediately. He had quite a full plate, from performance appraisals, recommendation letters, accreditation paperwork, you name it, yet he didn't waste a single breath. Another valuable lesson that I've taken away from observing Dr. Cadle is the way he treated others. To him, each student, each resident was a potential future trendsetter in pharmacy. As a well-achieved, well-recognized fellow of ASHP, he made considerable publications and advances in his profession, Yet he invested his time and energy into nurturing young pharmacists who may not have had any professional contribution as of yet in their career. And the reason being is that he recognized the potential in each individual and invested his time and energy to nurturing that resident into a practitioner. He's the definition of giving back to your profession. I hope to leave that same legacy myself. Thank you so much, Dr. Cadle.
I knew Dr. Cadle when I was a student, and he came to our school to talk about residency program applications. Then he became my mentor and helped me on my career development. He always gave me guidance whenever I needed help. Once I made an appointment with him, and he immediately met with me the next day. What I learned from him is his dedication to pharmacy profession. He never hesitated to tell us the truth about how competitive it is to apply for residency program. Without him, I might not have made the early decision to prepare myself for residency program application. He went to our school several times a year to talk to pharmacy students. He was always patient and provided guidance to students. He really cared career development of pharmacy students.
Wow, where to start? I feel like I've learned so much from you, Dr. Cadle. Probably the most important thing I think you've taught me is how to be a leader. And really the true way to lead is by building people up around you, investing time in their success, giving them opportunities, and the rest will just fall into place. I've definitely taken your leadership approach and tried to put that into work in my daily practice, and I'm definitely going to continue to do so going forward. I miss not being able to walk into your office and our interactions, on a regular basis, but I'm really grateful to have worked with you for the last 5 years. So I just want to thank you very much.
Hello, my name is Phoebe Chi. I'm one of Dr. Cadle's previous residents from the very beginning, I think.
Hi, my name is Christy Aguilar. I'm also one of Dr. Cadle's previous residents from 2012 to 2013.
So what is an important lesson you've learned from Dr. Cadle? I think for myself, the important lesson I learned from him is really be passionate and be persistent in what you love doing. I know for Dr. Cadle, he was extremely passionate and persistent in his establishing the PGY residency program at the Houston VA. He's worked really hard to get the residency program to where it needs to be, and persistence and passionate is definitely things that I've learned from him. Do you want to?
After we do this, because I thought she was still gonna go. Okay, I'll say for me, the way Dr. Cadle impacted my life. Well, first off, he's the reason I'm in Houston. I had the opportunity to interview at programs throughout the country, and hands down, once I had interviewed here, the Michael A. DeBakey VA Medical Center was my #1 choice, solely because of his passion and genuine interest that he exhibited during the interview. And then moving forward from there, that opportunity helped really helped pave the way for my career. Helped me land a second-year specialty residency. And then one day, Dr. Cadle somehow got my pager number, paged me back, went at my previous job, and was able to discuss an opportunity here, and that's the reason I'm back over here, and now I call Houston home.
How has your life been impacted by Dr. Cadle? I think for myself, it's impacted really through the residency program. I've worked closely with him for the past 5 years as the residency coordinator for the PGY program at the Houston VA, and I've learned tremendously amount of, just a lot of administration work within the residency program, how to really deal with residents' different characters and different opportunities and different interests, he really taught me how to be a good preceptor and eventually being a good residency program director. So in that aspect, I felt like he made a huge impact in my career and my life.
And the last question, I believe, was in what ways have you seen Dr. Cadle help others? Well, the list goes on and on for that, but one way I would say is very consistent. He will look after his residents and graduates after they finish the program. He'll keep in touch wherever they go, no matter which part of the country they're in, seeking opportunities for them, keeping that connection up, and that's something that I'm very grateful for, as well as many other former residents in the program.
Hi, we're Dr. Cadle's current residency class, and we had the honor of working with, learning from, and being mentored by Dr. Cadle. Dr. Cadle served as our PGY1 director as well as the PGY2 director of infectious diseases. Dr. Cadle truly made an impact on so many throughout pharmacy through his advocacy for pharmacy and his investment in the training of future pharmacists. Dr. Cadle established a legacy that will continue far into the future. Through his encouragement and advice, each of the PGY1 residents will be pursuing an additional year of training in infectious diseases, internal medicine, critical care, and cardiology. We could not be more grateful or proud to have been his residents and hope to continue his legacy, using it as an example to impact the growth and the development of future pharmacy students and residents.
So Dr. Cadle really loved having students come through the VA to train, both informally, like shadowing us in HIV clinic, or formally having them actually assigned to him as a preceptor for rotations. I actually had him as a student, so I can speak from experience when I say that he was really good at pushing students to their limits of learning without ever pushing them over the edge. He was a big proponent of pharmacy and pharmacists practicing to the full extent of their license, so I felt like he always was really good at starting that as on a student level. Like, he gave us a lot of autonomy and he really pushed us to do a lot of things that I wasn't comfortable with, on my first clinical rotation, but he really helped me grow as a student and as a pharmacist. And besides just being a really good teacher, he was a really fun preceptor to work with. He was really goofy and he always made a lot of funny jokes. I went to UT and he hated the University of Texas, and so I know I've seen him do this to other students and preceptors too, but he'd always give me a really hard time about UT football, whether we were doing well or not, and so that was always kind of a funny aspect to the day as well. And he cared about all of his students a lot on an individual level, so he helped them develop professionally, but even as a student and as an individual, he wanted to make sure we all did what we wanted to do. He was obviously a little bit biased towards clinical pharmacy and residency, but he would help you do whatever you wanted to do. So I know he wrote me a really nice letter of rec that like other residency program directors mentioned on their interviews. He outreach to programs I was interested in as a student, and I'm really grateful for all that he's helped me in, and I know other students that didn't get the chance to work with him as their director feel the same way too.
Yeah, Dr. Cadle was more than just our residency program director. He interacted with us on a daily basis, and even though our time with him as his residents was cut short, he was so much more to us than just our RPD. He was a supportive mentor. Just to reiterate what Anne said, he was very involved with everyone's transition, whether it be from a student to a resident or a resident to a practitioner. And he had so much stake in our success. He really wanted to make sure that everybody was achieving their goals, whether that be getting a PGY2 or starting a career. He was also our fearless captain. He would have our backs whenever we needed it. He advocated for his VA residents, for residents throughout the Med Center, as well as residents across the nation. And he would always tell us, I got your back, I got your back, I'm gonna go to bat for you. And he would follow that up with, that's what a residency program director is for.
I think when many of us think of Dr. Cadle, we remember him for the inspiration he was for pharmacy. I think those of us who were lucky enough to have him as our residency director, the one thing we remember him as is our pharmacy dad. As all of us were kind of saying before, many of us were going up for PGY2, so springtime was kind of a very stressful time within the office, and Dr. Cadle was always there to support us and making sure that we were feeling confident and just really to check in on us. And I think the one time it was most evident with when he would be coming to the office to see how we were feeling. And anytime you showed like a little bit of a lack of confidence, or maybe you didn't know if you were right for the position you were going up for, Dr. Cadle was always there to be like, what are you talking about? Don't be crazy. Like, you're an amazing resident. I have the best residents. I have the best residents in the country. And he would tell it to us, and he would make sure we would know it, and he would also make sure our preceptors would know it. But then after he would say it, we'd all kind of like look at each other and be like, that's not true. But I think the important part is it doesn't matter if it was true or not, because Dr. Cadle believed it, and he made sure we believed it as his residents. And I think that's what makes him an amazing residency director. So I think 100%, without a doubt, Dr. Cadle was the best director in the country.
Coming from Puerto Rico, something that I will always appreciate from Dr. Cadle was his constant efforts trying to make me and all of us feel more comfortable. A funny way he tried to do so was trying to come up with funny nicknames for each of us. Like for me, he came up with Ricky Martin because my fellow residents wanted the Puerto Rican, but he just didn't think it was really that funny.
My nickname was Bambi because he said I had a deer in the headlights look one day, and he liked to do an impression of it as often as possible.
Mine was senior citizen because he thought I was the oldest resident in the office, even though I wasn't.
So all the co-residents like to call me Cadle Jr. because I picked up on a lot of his traits, like his tenacity. But when I went to tell him that I was Cadle Jr., he said, nah, we're gonna call you Little Rascal.
And I was Bugsy because I liked infectious diseases, and he knew that from like the day he met me as a student, so Bugsy was just a natural fit.
Well, my first nickname was Snooze because we couldn't come up with a nickname, and he said, well, I guess you're boring, so we should just call you Snooze. And then when he came up with another nickname, I went to school in Colorado, and in Colorado, it's legal to smoke marijuana, and so he decided to call me Up in Smoke, which we could not tell anyone besides the people within the VA.
Yeah, and even he named himself Moses because he was there since the dawn of pharmacy.
Dr. Cadle, thank you for investing so much in our lives. As we finish our year at the VA and close this chapter, when we reflect back, we feel so blessed to have you as our RPD. You are more than a residency program director to us. You believed in us, you cared about our future, our hopes, and our aspiration. The word inspiration does not describe you. As we look back at our time at the VA, we feel that this year has impacted us so much, and that's because of your involvement. Your example, your perseverance, your hard work, and determination to make this world a better place for us and your patients. Your belief in us is the pivotal reason we're going to continue our training next year. We love you, Dr. Cadle, and words cannot simply describe how much you mean to our pharmacy class. We are all where we are today because of you. We could not be more honored to be your residents and have been your residents, and will continue your legacy every day. We want to thank you from the bottom of our hearts.
Hi, I'm Regina Isaac. I was in Dr. Cadle's second residency class from 2006 to 2007. I would have to say the biggest impact that Dr. Cadle had for me was obviously being one of the best residency directors that I've ever worked with, and also kind of streamlining what I wanted to do with my career. Right now I'm doing both inpatient and outpatient just like he did, and I enjoy every minute of it. My fondest memories of him was obviously the famous turtlenecks that he wore during residency touring. That was my favorite part of the year. And also that he finally took a break during mid-year and would actually have a drink with us, and he had a smile on his face and enjoyed it. You could just see the happiness in his face when he talked about this program and talked about the VA, and I was so proud of him. Finally, the biggest lesson that I probably learned from him is that he showed me that one person could impact multiple people, that one person could make a difference. And so I just wanted to say I'm very proud of him, and to him and his family, I am so proud to have known this man, and will be missed. He will be missed. Thanks.
Hi, my name is Marcy. I'm one of Dr. Cadle's residents for this year. One of my favorite memories of Dr. Cadle was when he would come into the office and offer us fee basis or extra money for working on special projects. And so he would come into the office and say, Dr. Palat, you got time for some fee basis today? Cha-ching, cha-ching.
I am Ardith Mitchell. Dr. Cadle was my PGY1 and PGY2 director. I first met Dr. Cadle during my residency interview. He made a point of telling each and every one of us that it was not his residency, it was our residency. His enthusiasm for his work, for the VA, and the impact that he was having on patients was absolutely inspiring. He was so convincing that his residency program would be the right path to start my clinical career, and he was right. Dr. Cadle was my biggest cheerleader as a resident, and he was a guiding force in my pursuing a career in infectious diseases. When I reflect on Dr. Cadle's impact on my life, I think most about how supportive he was of my goals and my own growth, both professionally and personally. He reinforced for me the power of one person doing the right thing and caring about the people who surround them. He really encouraged me to become involved in local and state organizations to promote the profession of pharmacy, and I firmly believe that my life was made better by Dr. Cadle's mentorship.
I wanted to take a couple of seconds to talk about Rich Cadle for a little bit. I met a long time before I worked with him at the VA. We met when I was a student at the University of Houston Residency Showcase, as well as at ASHP mid-year. And, I really was interested in the program. I was excited to get an on-site interview and go through that process. But I guess I was against tough competition that year because Rich never offered me an interview during residency recruitment. So not bitter about it, but things seem to have worked out well in the end. Once I did begin to work with Rich, I learned a few things. First things first, no matter what, he always came into work with the same energy at the same time and gave it 100% no matter what was going on and how bad the day was before or what tough issues he was facing. He always came in with the same energy and the same devotion to his patients and to his residents. So I really appreciated his approach and his tenacity every single day. He also invested greatly in his residents. Even if they weren't his, he always took the time to ensure that they had everything that they needed to succeed. I never saw him be more happy than at the end of the residency year when people would graduate and they would find jobs. That was his big thing. And he could find you a job anywhere in the country as long as you're willing to move. And I think he really went out of his way to ensure that happened for the residents. And then the last thing was, the greatest thing that you can give your residents is time. And he really made a lot of time for his residents to share the things that he had learned throughout his career and how to better themselves. And with the amount of residents that he helped train, that was a lot of time. And he didn't mind ever. No matter what was going on, he never minded doing that. So he always made time for his residents. He always made time for his family. And those two things are very important to him and are now to me as well. I'm honored to have called Rich a mentor, a friend, and certainly a colleague.
Hello, my name is Andrew Hunter. I'd like to start off this video by saying congratulations to the 2017 TMC Pharmacy Residency class. So the first question is, what is an important lesson you've learned from Dr. Cadle? So one lesson I've learned from Dr. Cadle is perseverance. So no matter the obstacle, whether it was changing a resident's rotation schedule, trying to ensure that a patient got the medication or the care that they needed, Dr. Cadle made it happen. He found a way to get the job done. And so this is something that I've tried to emulate in my practice and something I teach now to my students and residents. So the second question is, how has your life been impacted by Dr. Cadle? So Dr. Cadle meant a lot to me. He was my preceptor, my residency program director, my boss, but ultimately he was my mentor and my friend. He forever changed my professional career. He was the reason I wanted to do residency. And through my first residency, he encouraged me to pursue a second residency in infectious diseases and ultimately a career in infectious disease pharmacy that I have now. And for that, I'll forever be grateful.
I think one of the big lessons that Dr. Cadle imparted on me was to give back to the profession. He demonstrated this by, of course, establishing his residency program, but also taking students almost every rotation, encouraging other preceptors to take students, fill as many rotations as they could, being heavily involved in TSHP, obviously, as well as Gulf Coast Society of Health System Pharmacy. And even if it wasn't, something formal, the Gulf Coast Casino Nights in July, man, he really was involved in that and definitely tried to push as many people to go out there, not just to, give back to the profession, but also just to, network and see old friends and kind of keep in touch. That's something I really appreciated, and it came through, especially those casino nights where he was just kind of working the room and going all over, seeing old residents, old co-workers and stuff like that. He was just so happy during those times. It's something I really appreciated.
Dr. Cadle had an amazing impact on his pharmacy residents, and it's hard to put into word the extent of his impact, but this is exemplified in all the residents that he had and over the 10 years that he was the residency program director at the Michael E. DeBakey VA. I am where I am today because of him, because of his mentorship. Dr. Cadle brought passion, persistence, integrity, and selflessness to work with him every day. And he was an advocate for our pharmacy profession and expanding clinical pharmacy services, mentoring pharmacy residents, and being a part of an interprofessional team who was caring for HIV patients and ID patients. He was the heart of our residency program and always brought a smile to our faces, whether it was through his jokes or stories or trying to do power poses with us in our residence office. I was lucky enough to be a part of the residency graduation that he held for us at the VA for 2 years as a PGY1 and PGY2. He read the poem "The Road Not Taken" by Robert Frost. So I'd like to read a quote from the end of this poem. It goes, "I shall be telling this with a sigh, somewhere ages and ages hence, 2 roads diverged in a wood, and I took the one last traveled by, and that has made all the difference." I think Dr. Cadle's road less traveled was advocating for our profession and his residents. He taught me it may be a difficult journey, but with passion and persistence you can accomplish your goals. And of course, Dr. Cadle will be proud. He will always be very proud of you. Through his leadership and mentorship, he has impacted the pharmacy profession even beyond his immediate actions, and I cannot thank him enough for the impact he has had on me.
Some of my favorite memories of Dr. Cadle is just when we were sitting in the residence office and he would come and visit us and just talk about what was going on, any advice that we needed on just random little things that were going through our brain that day, and eating the cookies that our co-residents brought in for us, or co-resident boyfriends who sent them over, and just spending some quality time together. One of my other favorite things that I learned from him was how he always made time for us, no matter how small our issue was or how big it was. He made sure to show that it was a priority to him, and by doing that showed that the residents were a priority to him. So in my practice going forward, I've tried to take that with my students and in the future my own residents. And another important lesson professionally that Dr. Cadle taught me was how important it is to be involved and give back to our profession through professional organizations, with which he demonstrated through his service as President-elect designee of Texas Society of Health System Pharmacists, as well as how involved he was with the Gulf Coast Society of Health System Pharmacists. I'm pretty sure about 80% of the officers and members wouldn't be involved as highly as they are without his motivation and push for all of us to be involved and I think you can see how impactful Gulf Coast is through his leadership and several of the other people involved, and how it's really grown over the past few years to be an awesome organization. So I will continue to always remember Dr. Cadle fondly for these reasons and many other reasons that I just don't have time to talk about today. Dr. Cadle, you're very missed, and I'll remember you for the rest of my career in life.
Hello, my name is Jessica Gardea, and I was one of Dr. Cadle's pharmacy residents. My life was truly impacted by him. Although my residency year at the Houston VA was a challenging one, he constantly pushed me to persevere and place emphasis on leadership opportunities, as well as the importance of advocating for our profession. Because of him, I now have a network of pharmacy role models and friends who have also been touched and inspired by him, and are currently influencing the lives of everyone they inspire and touch. Thank you, Dr. Cadle.
Congratulations, residents. I had the privilege of being one of Dr. Cadle's residents and attending this same graduation 6 years ago. Dr. Cadle taught me numerous lessons, which I unfortunately don't have time to go into today. Most importantly, he taught me about the value of hard work and developing positive personal relationships as keys to success. As a resident under Dr. Cadle's leadership, he had a way to push me and my co-residents to succeed, but in a manner that we truly wanted to please him. We never wanted to let him down. And once we did meet our goals, he was so encouraging and very proud of you that it really inspired me to continue to pursue other goals. I try to incorporate these same values both in my pharmacy career and personal relationships. The importance of remaining positive, working hard, developing close relationships with those around you, and celebrating successes and achievements, as well as making others feel appreciated for all of their hard work and effort, are very important and key factors to your success. I think these traits truly helped me to be the pharmacist that I am today, and help to contribute toward my success with doctors, nurses, other healthcare professionals, but most importantly, patients and families and caregivers.
Here to at least impart what an important lesson that I learned from Rich Cadle. Rich was the most humble person I've ever met. He always put others' acknowledgement before himself in any endeavor, whether it was small or large, by really bringing out the best in those around him to make it a success. And Rich knew the value of volunteering and seeing what a difference he could make in someone else's life simply by showing a genuine interest in that individual. He also knew the power of developing contacts and networking everywhere he went. Ask anyone in the pharmacy community in Houston, one of the largest cities in the United States, and they knew who Rich Cadle was and what he stood for our profession. The other question was, how has my life been impacted by Rich Cadle? And Rich impacted my life in many ways, and most notably in his love of escargot, which he discovered from his mother as a child. His favorite food taught me to always respect others' taste, no matter how disgusting it may appear from your viewpoint, as the world is full of viewpoints and differences between people. He also knew the importance of being an example to others in everything he did. This would show up in his support of others and letting you know that he was definitely on your team and he was proud to be. This impacted me by being sure to let others know you believe in them for whatever new role or roles they may be taking on in life, and that you want them to achieve their goals. He was also a consummate one to offer compliments to others for their qualities. This taught me to always appreciate the contributions of others around me, and even for the simple tasks, and recognize that their efforts, as everyone wants to make a difference. Rich also impacted me in focusing on one's priorities in life. He was an extremely busy man and still was able to refocus his efforts where they were needed most, including his personal life. He taught me many life lessons and how to be successful in all areas of your life besides work. On a side note, he was one of my best pharmacy friends, not just from our similar professional interests, but rather us both being wiser than in our youth. And then lastly, can I share a fond memory of how you saw him helping others? And I have really have had the privilege of watching Rick work his art of selling trainee spots, whether it was for the Valor program for students or a residency slot for a PGY1 or PGY2 at the VA. I also experienced his wealth of friends at many a mid-year meeting when we would all meet up after the business of the day was over. He had really cultivated an enormous amount of respect and admiration from his previous trainees and supporting them at a time when they had lost sight of some of their own greatness. I think Rick knew happiness was an inside job and he had really mastered it.
Hello, my name is Brian Fozzie. I'm the Associate Director of the Dallas Consolidated Mail Outpatient Pharmacy for the Department of Veterans Affairs. I'd like to talk about how I first met Dr. Cadle and the impact he's had upon my life. I can still remember that cold February day in Michigan during my P4 rotations when I got a call out of the blue from my Dr. Richard Cadle. Dr. Cadle was asking me if I'd be interested in interviewing for a pharmacy administration residency that they were starting up at the Houston VA Medical Center. I had applied to several other residencies within the Houston metro area, but did not include the VA Medical Center because a lot of the negative news that I'd heard going around about the VA, although I'd never practiced there, I had a very low opinion of it. Dr. Cadle was able to convince me to come down and interview since I was already going to be in the area, and I was really surprised by the advanced practice that pharmacists had within the VA. And I could see Dr. Cadle's dedication to the veterans and the residents that he precepted. From there, I ranked the VA as my #1 choice and was selected. Throughout my time at the Houston VA Medical Center as a resident, I earned one of Dr. Cadle's coveted nicknames that he gives to all his residents. He had nicknamed me Slacker, which he would say was because I was the exact opposite of that. I was one of the hardest working guys that you've ever seen, yada yada yada, that kind of stuff. But you know, like any nickname, there's a hint of truth to that, which is probably why I'm doing this video just a few minutes before the deadline. But one of the other great things I liked about Dr. Cadle was whenever he was giving a speech, he would use a quote from a famous person, very well respected, like Dr. Martin Luther King. So I'll end my video with a quote from Robert Frost that he would like to use in some of his speeches as well. "Two paths diverted in a yellow wood, and Dr. Cadle made all the difference."
A different league. In memory of my cousin, Dr. Richard Cadle, and the many students and colleagues whose lives are better because he chose pharmacy school over baseball. This is what happens when a ball player doesn't go pro. He takes another trajectory, a life in flight, reaching for the bleachers, yet on the ground, a part of the team, the guy others turn to when it's one run down in the bottom of the ninth. Rick was that guy, and I know it, just like I know the contours and bones of my own face, the face we share as cousins, and the drive that in him came out as hunger for success, but not for himself. I still see him at 17, fresh from a recruiting visit with the Angels, not that likely straight from high school. He saw the joy of working out with the pros, the fancy massage tables, the lure of the ballpark, but in the end, he chose another field, and there is more than a stadium of people whose lives were changed because he did.